All right, today we're going to talk about something that touches millions of lives, dementia. But we're not just going to cover the basics. We're diving deep into the nearly invisible signs that can show up decades before a diagnosis. And, more importantly, we'll get into what we can all do to build a more resilient brain.
This quote, it just hits you, right? It comes from someone whose mom passed from dementia, and it captures this feeling that so many families know all too well. It's that painful hindsight, looking back and suddenly seeing all the little clues that were missed along the way. And that feeling that if only we had known sooner, it's just painfully common. This is exactly why understanding these early, subtle signs is so critical, because the best time to slow things down is right at the beginning.
So to get a sense of just how big this is, let's look at the numbers. Right now, there are over 55 million people around the world living with dementia. I mean, that is a staggering figure that impacts families and communities just about everywhere.
And here's the thing, it's not a static problem. That number is actually projected to nearly triple by the year 2050. So yeah, that adds a real sense of urgency, not just for finding cures, but for focusing on what we can do now, prevention and early detection.
So how does something like this even begin? Well, it's not like flipping a switch. It's a really slow, quiet process. The brain starts sending out these little signals long before the disease becomes obvious. Let's dig into what those are.
This, to me, is one of the most important things to understand, the timeline. The biological process of dementia can actually start when a person's in their 40s or 50s. That means by the time a diagnosis is finally made, the disease has already been progressing for, 20 or 30 years.
Okay, so this brings us to a really key idea called course correction. Let me break it down. A healthy brain recognizes a mistake, right? Like you misplace your keys. So what do? You create a new system. You put a hook by the door. But a brain in early dementia, it just repeats the mistake over and over without recognizing it as a pattern or being able to create that new solution. That difference is everything.
So with that course correction idea in mind, let's break down some of the most common and honestly most commonly missed early warning signs. We're going to group them into two main clusters to make it easy. So the first cluster has to do with changes in our thinking and our sense of direction. These signs often point to the hippocampus. That's the brain's super important center for memory and orientation, and it's one of the very first areas that Alzheimer's impacts. We've all misplaced our keys. But the difference is that pattern we talked about, repetition without the course correction. The source material shares this incredibly powerful story about the author's mother getting completely lost, driving a route she'd taken for years. Her excuse? She blamed it on road closures, a totally plausible reason that, in reality, was masking a much deeper issue. Now, this second cluster of signs is just as important, but it's so often mistaken for just, personality quirks or someone having a bad day. These are the changes in social and emotional behavior. Think about it. Someone who starts choosing to be alone more often, or gets intensely frustrated over really small things, or just gets stuck in a negative thought loop. These aren't just personality traits. They can actually be signs of changes happening in the brain's frontal and limbic systems, which regulate our emotions and are super vulnerable to the inflammation tied to dementia. Okay, we've identified the problem, but this explainer is also about solutions. And the good news is our lifestyle choices can have a huge impact on our brain's health. So let's shift gears and talk about building resilience. This slide really lays out the foundation. Researchers have zeroed in on 4 key pillars. Moving your body to get that blood flowing, protecting your sleep so your brain can clean house, managing stress to lower those harmful cortisol levels, and nourishing your brain with the right building blocks. They're all connected, and they are all vital for our cognitive future.
Of all the lifestyle factors, though, one really stands out as the most powerful: regular aerobic exercise. It is consistently shown to be the strongest factor we know of to actually increase the size of the hippocampus, that critical memory center we were just talking about.
So how does it work? Well, exercise boosts something called BDNF, which is basically like fertilizer for your brain cells. It amps up blood flow, delivering more oxygen and nutrients, and it actually stimulates the growth of new neurons. It's wild. Consistent, moderate exercise can literally slow down or even reverse age-related brain shrinkage. This is just such a touching and practical example. The author's brother knew how important movement was for their mother. Even when she didn't want to go outside, he'd just walk with her in circles around the living room. It just goes to show you consistency is way more important than intensity. Just move every single day.
All right, the next pillar is what we eat. And it's not just fuel for our body, it's the raw material for our brain. The right nutrition can literally protect our brain cells from the kind of damage and inflammation that can drive dementia.
And being specific here is key. You've got polyphenols from colorful plants that act as antioxidants. You've got omega-3s from fatty fish, which are the literal building blocks of our brain cells. And just avoiding those big sugar spikes protects the hippocampus. It's all about giving your brain the right building materials to work with. So here's the crucial takeaway. The big idea is this: dementia is not an inevitable part of getting older. The disease process might start early and quietly, but our daily choices about movement, sleep, stress, and what we eat, they give us the power to rewrite that story. We've covered a lot, from the invisible beginnings of dementia all the way to the powerful tools we have to protect ourselves. So I want to leave you with this question. This isn't about some massive overnight life overhaul. It's just about one small positive choice. So what is the one thing you will do for your brain today?